हेलो एवरीवन। पिछली क्लासेस में कोई डाउट नहीं। कार्तिक, एक ऑफिस बॉय को भेजना, किसी को भेजना। पिछली क्लासेस से कोई डाउट, कोई समस्या, कोई दुविधा नहीं? तो चलो हम आगे बढ़ते हैं फिर। तो व्हाट वाज द लास्ट थिंग? सिक्योरिटी थ्रेट्स ड्यू टू ओपन बॉर्डर। So there are several threats. Okay, so the border is actually open and the security at the border is actually not very tight. Okay, so there is no legal requirement of visa and everything for basically crossing that border. Okay, according to the agreement that was signed between India and Nepal in 1950. So now the problem is, the first threat that arises is mainly we have witnessed some cases of terrorist infiltration through the border. Okay, we have seen that multiple times the terrorists, and even have you watched the movie Dhurandhar? Have you watched the movie Dhurandhar 2? तो व्हाट इज शोन इन दैट? नहीं देखी? क्यों? देखो, तुमने देख ली? नहीं देखी? अरे देखी? धुरंधर 1 देखी है? उसी का कंटिन्यूएशन है धुरंधर 2, एंड इन धुरंधर 2 it is shown that the fake currency from Pakistan is first going to Nepal, and from Nepal it is coming to UP, है ना? So the problem, and this problem is not just in movie. This is the depiction of the real on ground problem. Okay, so the fake currency issue is also there. Okay, that is called as FICN. Okay, so that is also there, fake Indian currency network. Okay, so that is a very big problem. And another is cross border crimes. There are two regions, one is the Pahadi region in Nepal and another one is the Terai region. Terai, okay, TERAI. You might have also heard about the Terai region in geography teachers also, that the river has certain courses, है ना? Doar, Chos, Terai. So these are the parts, and the Terai region is basically that starts from the foothills of the hills. Okay, so the groups or the gangs that do some illegal activities, they first enter into India, they do whatever they want to, the illegal acts, and then they again move back to the Pahadi region of Nepal. Okay, and they hide there in the valleys. All right, that is another very big problem. And one more thing is smuggling and illegal activities. The smuggling of, because the Bihar border is there, Bihar shares the international border with Nepal, and Bihar is a dry state. Okay, legally the liquor is banned there. Okay, so liquor is transported from Nepal to Bihar. Okay, illegally, by illegal means. All right. So you might have seen the videos, the reels, that a person inside his motorcycle tank, he is hiding the small packets of liquor. Okay, and in various other ways. Okay, so that is another very big serious problem. Okay, that is witnessed. All right. हाँ, ये normal पानी भर के है ना? So that is another serious problem. All right. So write this: while the open border, has created several opportunities, has created several opportunities, but on the other hand, it poses a serious, while on the other hand, it poses a serious security challenge to India. A serious security challenge to India. All right. So now write first major challenge. Put the first heading: terrorist infiltration. Terrorist infiltration. Right? Pakistan's intelligence agencies. Pakistan's intelligence agencies allegedly allegedly uses allegedly uses the Nepal border route to infiltrate the terrorists inside India's borders. Infiltrate terrorists inside India's border. Okay, so that is a very big challenge. Okay, now write fake currency network. Second heading: fake currency network. ये बॉटल को बंद कर लो, हाथ लग गया ना गलती से गिर जाएगा, बड़े गंदे होंगे। तुम जो है विटामिन B12 लो। नहीं हो रहा? नहीं है? बिकॉज माई हेयर्स ऑल्सो स्टार्टेड ग्रेइंग एट दिस एज ओनली, बहुत जल्दी हो गए थे तो मैंने, हाँ तो उसी मेरे आई वाज इन आई थिंक इन क्लास 11 when my hair started growing, but I for the initial 3-4 years ना I took that vitamin B12, न्यूरोबिन फोर्ट करके आती थी, अभी पता नहीं आती है कि नहीं, वो लिया था, ठीक हो गया था उससे, तुम्हारी डेफिशिएंसी नहीं है। तो हेडिंग डाल दिया, फेक करेंसी नेटवर्क इन नेपाल, राइट? फेक इंडियन करेंसी, fake Indian currencies are circulated in India through Nepalese border to destabilize Indian economy. To destabilize Indian economy. Okay? To destabilize Indian economy. Right? Another point, cross-border crime. Cross-border crime. Cross-border crime. Right? Criminals commit wrongs in India and to hide themselves from the enforcement agencies. And to hide themselves from the enforcement agencies, they take shelter in Nepal, and vice versa also happens. And vice versa also happens, है ना? किसी का vice versa भी होता, okay? And vice versa also happens. Next point, right? Smuggling and illegal activities. Smuggling and illegal activities. Smuggling and illegal activities, right? Drugs trafficking, right? Drugs trafficking, comma, gold smuggling, comma, gold smuggling, comma, human trafficking, and illegal arms trade are the major activities that happens. ऐसे एक छोटी सी बात लिख लो, सोल्यूशन फॉर these प्रॉब्लम्स, है ना? तो इन प्रॉब्लम्स का सोल्यूशन क्या हो सकता है? व्हाट कैन बी द सोल्यूशन फॉर these प्रॉब्लम्स? देखो, बॉर्डर बंद करना इज नॉट द सोल्यूशन. टू क्लोज द बॉर्डर इज नॉट द सोल्यूशन बिकॉज दैट विल स्टॉप द अपॉर्चुनिटीज, राइट? सो बेटर थिंग इज, राइट, फर्स्ट पॉइंट, better border management instead of complete closure. Better border management instead of complete closure. Right, next point, modernization of सशस्त्र. सशस्त्र सीमा बल. सशस्त्र सीमा बल. So they are the border guarding agencies on Indo-Nepalese border. सशस्त्र सीमा बल. In bracket, right, SSB was given the permission to create its own intelligence agency in 2017. ठीक है, इनको कहा गया कि तुम अपनी एजेंसी रखो, इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसी. Was given the permission to make its own intelligence agency in 2017. ठीक है, अच्छा, तो यही है चीजें. ठीक है, तो ये और तुम अपने हिसाब से लिख सकते हो, whatsoever comes in the current news or everything. Now, one is the put the main heading, India Nepal hydropower diplomacy. Now, see, we have found one thing, that in several parts of Nepal, almost 15 to 18 hours of power cut was there, right? And due to the geographical barriers, there China cannot directly supply electricity to Nepal. It is doing, in fact, it is doing, but not at a greater scale. Nepal is not that much willing to buy electricity from here. So, as a part of our diplomacy, we have found that it is better to install hydropower projects there in Nepal and part of India. If we will start doing that, the hydropower potential there in Nepal is of around 80,000 megawatt. That is the potential there. And the installed capacity is just like 110. Okay, 110 क्यों है ना, 800 है ना. So it is 80,000 is the potential. Okay, so just like Nepal is an upper riparian state. Obvious originates there only in the upper Himalayan area, and so several rivers. For example, the Brahmaputra, after traveling a long way in China, then it comes to India. All right, that is Sangpo there and Brahmaputra here. So same case with Indus also. Indus में तो India is upper riparian, and then Pakistan is lower riparian. All right. So बहुत सारी but rivers हैं still. Okay. The small rivers. So for which India is a lower riparian state, and Nepal, Bhutan, so they are upper riparian. All right. China. So here Nepal is an upper riparian state. So rivers, several rivers, Mahakali, then these starts flowing from there. And when the river originates there, the potential to harvest electricity or to exploit electricity from that river is more. So right, that means river originate in Nepal and then flows into India. And the hydropower potential and the hydropower potential in Nepal is approx 80,000 megawatt. 80,000 megawatt, but the installed capacity is just 800 megawatt, around 800 megawatt, due to which Nepal faces around 15 to 18 hours power cut, despite a enormous potential. Next point, right? Nepal fears that, है ना, नेपाल को वही, the fear that Nepal has is basically what we are thinking of. We, by the hydropower diplomacy, we want to emerge as the like dominant player there in Nepal for the electricity market. But Nepal fears this thing only, right? Nepal fears that. आज तुम्हें क्या हुआ? तुम्हारी तबीयत ठीक नहीं है? नींद आ रही है? सोई कब हो? सिंगिए पहले दोरजी, हाँ दोरजी सिंगिए, और अब कौन है? अरे नाम ठीक से लो। केसर, 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 नाम ये वांगचुक, हो गया सर? ओके, ठीक। So, right, India often gives example of, तुमने लिख दिया, they fear that India will dominate the electricity market, right? So लिखो, India often gives example of Bhutan-India hydropower cooperation, but Nepal remains cautious. You be more fast. I am fast, but sometimes you go too fast. India often gives example of Bhutan-India hydropower cooperation. Example of Bhutan-India hydropower cooperation. आज का है तुम्हारे दोस्त? आज भी नहीं है। घर में है वो अपने कोटा राजस्थान। कोटा गई? क्यों? उसका एग्जाम है। अच्छा। अब चलो मेजर कुछ ट्रीटीज लिख लेते हैं ना, ये यू कैन कोड दीज ट्रीटीज इन योर आंसर, ओके? सो राइट, पुट द हेडिंग मेजर रिवर ट्रीटीज बिटवीन इंडिया एंड नेपाल। अच्छा, सौरव और बिहार कौन से रिवर है? कोसी। बताओ। कोसी। कोसी। मैंने गलत कहा? आपने ऐसे बोला पीछे वाले। प्लीज फॉरगिव मी। So Saurav Bihar is Kosi, है ना? So what happens is now Kosi originates from Nepal and enters to India, and Kosi became a very big reason for major flood events in Bihar. Okay, so that is the main reason why we have signed a Kosi Treaty in 1954, by which India will construct a barrage there on River Kosi in Nepal. Okay, so as to control the flood incidents in India. Okay. And Nepal has already given India 199 years of right to manage that flow of that river. By that agreement that was signed, that was Kosi Treaty, that was signed in 1954. Right, like this. First Kosi Treaty 1954. Kosi Treaty 1954. Right. Kosi River, known as the sorrow of Bihar. Kosi River is known as sorrow of Bihar. And this treaty between India and Nepal was signed ठीक है तो क्या लिखा
This treaty between India and Nepal was signed.
हाँ by which India will construct a barrage in Nepal, and the barrage will control flood and regulate the water. Control flood and regulate the water. ठीक है So, right, Nepal gave the management rights to India for 199 years. ठीक है Management rights to India for 199 years. Okay. Come to next point. Rocket की speed से आप चलाते हो. I was watching your hands. ऐसे ही आदत डालो है ना. So, right. There is a criticism about this treaty from Nepal's part. Stop. Barrage life is 50 years, right? Barrage's life is 50 years. But India got a control of 199 years. And Nepal alleges that India does not release enough water for irrigation and during flood India opens gate causing flood in Nepal. देखो whenever you're writing an answer and you are highlighting any problem in your answer, so there must be at least 2 lines of solution for that problem also, है ना? So next point, right? The solution lies in multi-stakeholder cooperation. This is a universal word you can use at any answer. Okay, the solution lies in multi-stakeholder cooperation and joint water management mechanism. Okay, so this is the potential solution for this problem. Okay, now one more treaty was there. Okay, that was signed at least 5 years after this Gandak Treaty. That was after this Kosi Treaty. That was Gandak Treaty. Gandak Treaty in 1959. Okay. So, right, by this treaty, both countries agreed to. तुम treaty का नाम black pencil क्यों लिख रहे हो?
बहुत ज़्यादा simple reason sir.
उन्हें तो ऐसे headings को highlight करो है ना? Both countries agreed to use use Gandak River water for irrigation and power generation. Gandak River water for irrigation and power generation. This treaty contains 13 articles for water sharing and infrastructure. For water sharing and infrastructure. This comparatively new treaty. Mahakali Treaty 1996. Right? This treaty covers Sarda Barrage, Tanakpur Barrage, and Pancheshwar Dam project. And Pancheshwar Dam project. Right, both countries agreed to share the cost and the benefits. Both countries agreed to share the cost and benefits. बट अब इसमें तीन मेजर प्रॉब्लम्स हैं. एक तो सोशियो इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट, एक एनवायरमेंटल कंसर्न्स और एक सेवरल पॉलिटिकल डिसएग्रीमेंट्स. ओके, सो राइट, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट द प्रोजेक्ट इज delayed due to the problem is that the project is delayed due to the rising environmental concerns from a socio-impact assessment and environmental area and political disagreements. अब लिखो मेन हेडिंग इंडिया नेपाल कमर्शियल डिप्लोमेसी. देखो कमर्शियल डिप्लोमेसी में क्या है. The first thing is that the commercial treaty between the trade treaty that we call between India and Nepal was actually signed in 1996. Okay, so and it was again revised in 2009. Okay, and basically 95% of Nepal's trade is actually with India. Okay, that is geographical necessity also, because the most all-weather roads between Nepal and any other country is that India only, with which it shares all-weather roads. All right, the road that connects both the countries throughout the 12 months of the year. Okay, otherwise in the northern part there is no all-weather connectivity with Nepal, and the eastern side or the western side, both it is landlocked only. It is landlocked from all the sides. Now 95% of its trade is just with India only. All right. And basically there are 22 transit points that facilitates the trade, and the border is completely open. All right. And there are 3 points. Okay, 3 points. So one is Raxol, another one is Tarakpur and Bhiratnagar. So Raxol, Tarakpur, and Bhiratnagar are the three borders from which the exchanges happens. India has almost 150 companies that has invested in Nepal in one or the other way. So that is also helping in the upliftment of the country, the Himalayan country. All right. Another thing is that see by several global conventions, it is mandatory for the country that has open access to the sea to provide access of ports to a landlocked country. That is compulsory. All right. Now Nepal is a landlocked country. It do not have any open border with open coast with the sea, so that it can do the trade. So what we have done is we have provided the access of Kolkata port to Nepal. We have allowed Nepal to do any kind of for the smooth custom checkout and check-in from the Kolkata port to all the carriers that are coming to Nepal, like for Nepal and going, like coming from Nepal to go to any other country. All right, we have provided the facility at Kolkata port. Okay, this is also part of our, I would say, the commercial diplomacy. And another thing is that what India exports to Nepal is like food products and petroleum products, refined products, all right. So from the crude oil we process, we refine the crude oil, convert it into several other byproducts, and then supplies it to Nepal. We also supply several machines, medicines, and all like almost all types of manufactured goods. Okay, we supply to Nepal. And what Nepal supplies in return, it's the timber because it's a Himalayan country, you know. And the timber is the major import from Nepal. Okay, so small timbers that we use in our furniture industry. Okay, because nowadays you might have seen the plywood, you know. So plywood जब से चले हैं, so after the plywood concept, between those plyboards there is bhusa, you know, and that furniture bhusa is coming from timbers only. So timber is actually helping our furniture industry. All right. Another thing that we import from there are the herbs and the medicines, the natural medicines that are like basically available in the Himalayan states. All right, so we basically import those herbs, those Ayurvedic medicines. Okay, and they know some tribal recipes also for those medicines. So we basically import those types of medicines from Nepal. Okay. And one more thing is that is some sort of Himalayan agricultural products are also imported from Nepal to India. Okay, that is the major trade. And yes, the trade imbalance is definitely there. Okay, so more export is done and less import is done. So this trade imbalance is actually in favor of India only. Okay, so there is this trade imbalance, but that is in favor of India. All right. So that is a positive point for India, but we don't want such type of positive point with a small country. All right, we don't want that to happen. But there is nothing much to do because there is very less things that Nepal can actually export to India. All right, so that is the main reason. But what they trade with any other country, 95% of the trade is that with India only. All right, so this is the part of basically. So some scholars often characterize this as a trade flood by India. Okay, so the scholars there in the political activists there in Nepal, they calls this as a trade flood by India. है ना? India is flooding our market. The same way we alleges China, that China has actually flooded our Indian market with several manufactured goods. है ना? Even our gods are during the time of Diwali, they are basically imported from China only. है ना? So the same way, and this actually helps their political parties to inculcate anti-India perception, the way we do, है ना, with China, the way we alleges that this political party is doing nothing to stop the flooding of Indian market from the Chinese goods. The same way this happens in Nepal. All right. So just write this thing. For the first point, trade relations. What? Trade relations. Okay, trade relations. Trade relations, right? Trade treaty between India and Nepal was signed in 1996. In 1996, which was revised in 2009. Which was revised in 2009. Right? Around 95% of Nepal's trade is with India. That might be because of the geographical necessity. Because of the geographical necessity. Okay, right. The trade is facilitated by the open border, and 22 transit routes. 22 transit routes, out of which some important transit points are, right, Raxol and Kanakpur. Okay, and Kanakpur. Raxol and Kanakpur. Next point, give the heading. Indian investment in Nepal. Indian investment in Nepal. Right? More than 150 Indian companies are operating in Nepal. More than 150 Indian companies are operating in Nepal in the sectors like manufacturing, banking, tourism and services. Tourism and services. Right, tourism and services. Right, third. Transit facility for Nepal. Transit facility for Nepal. Right. Since Nepal is a landlocked country, since Nepal is a landlocked country, India provides access to Kolkata port. India provides access to Kolkata port for third country trade. for third country trade. First off, custom points are established for smooth trade. Custom points are established for smooth trade and intergovernmental committee on trade was also formed in 2013. Trade imbalance issue. Trade imbalance issue. Right, like this. Right. In the export to Nepal section, right? India, nahi, ऐसे just write the products, okay? So in this, India's export to Nepal, right? Petroleum products, food products, machinery, medicines, manufactured goods. यहाँ ये पहले and इसमें right timbers, herbs and traditional medicines, and some agricultural products. Write a point. This leads to trade imbalance in favor of India. This leads to trade imbalance in favor of India, which sometimes creates anti-India perception in Nepal, where it is called as trade flood in India, by India, trade flood by India, where it is called as trade flood by India. ठीक है? अब एक हेडिंग डालो. इंडिया करके अगर Nepal Constitution 2015 and अब देखो, so the thing is, this was a very difficult task to frame the constitution in Nepal. Okay, it was a very difficult task. So it took almost like it was the seventh time the constitution came there. The drafting took at least the first attempt failed, and then it was the second attempt almost during this time when this constitution was framed. Okay, it was finalized and was adopted in 2015. All right. Now the thing is, so see, the first constituent assembly sat, framed, failed, then second sat, framed, and still there was some issue. अभी सुनो, इधर देखो, उधर मत देखो, छोड़ो, इधर सुनो. क्या हुआ? वहाँ क्या क्या देख रहे हो बताओ? कोई प्रॉब्लम है? सब क्लियर है ना वो जो पढ़ाया है? उसमें कोई डाउट है तो बताओ. चलो तो अभी केवल सुनो, 2 मिनट के लिए, 2 मिनट की बात है, ठीक है? Now the thing was, this constitution, earlier constitutions were basically framed by the monarch. In those constitutions, the power was granted to the people by the monarch, and it was dependent on the wishes of the monarch only. You know, what kind of power to be given to the people. All right. Now this constitution was a right-based constitution wherein several fundamental rights were given to the people. All right. It was a constitution that was actually written by the politicians, and there was also some objectives, okay, which the constitution of Nepal wanted to achieve for their people, and the constitution's nature was also to basically preserve the diversity. You know, it was to preserve the diversity. Now the problem which came just 1 year after its implementation was the issue of Madeshi. Okay, this issue of Madeshi was, just understand that there are just two communities in, moreover dominant communities in Nepal. That is, one is Pahadi. Okay, there are 7 to 8 communities majorly comprising of Pahadis, and another one was Madeshi. All right. See, just imagine the situation like, for example, India has Lok Sabha, and in Lok Sabha the people are represented by the means of their representative, and total seats are 543. So the entire country is divided into 543 constituencies. All right. So the total number of constituencies in Nepal was actually fixed at 165. Okay. See, just like look into this. These were the people who had their origin to Bihar and eastern part of Uttar Pradesh. Okay. They migrated to the Tarai region in Nepal, all right, and they were living in Tarai region. Okay, so they were the people who were living in Tarai region. That means not the hilly area, but the area that starts after the foothills, all right, the plain area. Okay, and out of the total 100% population of Nepal, more than 50% were Madeshis and less than 50% were Pahadis. Okay, the Pahadi communities were, for example, Limbus, Magars, Gurung, Tamang, Khas, Nepali Aryans. They were the Pahadi community. Madeshi were the people who went from India to Nepal. All right, but now they were Nepalis. Because they did not have anything or except marital ties or some other ties. They had their own property and everything, business and everything there in Nepal. So they were Nepalis, okay. But why this issue affected India? Because they shared ties with India. Some of their family members are living in India, and whatever problem was happening to them was impacting India. Because here Indians started demanding that do something for their rights, okay. Now, what the Constitution of 2015 did, it allocated seats both to Madheshi, and they in turn got 100 seats in the assembly of Nepal. Okay, so Pahadis who were less than 50% in the total population got 100 seats, and who were more than 50% of the population in Nepal got 65 seats. All right, this became a very big issue. Okay, here what was happening? One person was being elected for representing 5,000 people. But here, one person was being elected to represent 1 lakh people. They were in number more, but got almost half seats. One representative for lakh people, one representative for 5,000 people. A very big disparity. Now, federal issue was also there. Madheshis raised the slogan of Ek Madhesh, Ek Pradesh. They raised this slogan and they wanted all the Terai area to be constituted into one federal unit, like one province or one state. This was their issue. Now there were some kind of like constitutional defects also. अभी कर लेते हैं डिस्कस, फिर तो लिखेंगे, but just understand the constitutional defect. The main article of the constitution, this constitution of Nepal of 2015, the major defect was there in Article 282. What was the defect? There were 3 types of citizenship in Nepal. One was the citizenship by descent, one was by birth, and another one was naturalization. Naturalization for a fixed period of time. If you are living here, you are given in India. It is 11 years, है ना? 14 year in total, but out of that 14 year, 11 year in total. Sometimes you will go outside, sometimes you will come back, है ना? In that 14 year, it is 11 year, है ना? So if you are continuously also living for 11 years, then also you are eligible. But just you will have to give the application 12 months before that, है ना? Time of getting nationalized. Okay. Birth was because you are born here and some of your parent, one or other of your parent are तो पढ़ा है polity में, है ना? Now the thing is the post of president of this आपका Nepal, vice president, prime minister, chief justice, and head of all the constitutional bodies was made reserved by Article 282 of the Nepali Constitution for the citizen by descent. Now Terai people got rejected here only because they are not by descent. So this was a very big problem. So this was another defect. Okay. So now they block it. They blocked the Birgunj Raksol border. They carried out in 2016 a blockade there in Nepal. A wide-scale protest happened in Nepal. All right. So there was now, due to this blockade, there happened the shortage of fuel, LPG, and everything. And India unofficially supported the blockade also. Unofficially, okay, not officially. Why? Because there the Terai people were having problems, but was affecting India. Why? Because there they are blockading, and here Indians are protesting. Do something for them. You know, this was, and like due to this blockade, there happened a very harsh economic pressure was there on the Nepali government because ultimately the people were suffering from the shortage of LPGs and fuel. Because of that blockade, because ultimately almost all the fuel supply was going through this border only. That was blocked by these protesters. Okay. Now the impact was that so at that time there was severe smog in Kathmandu. People started cutting their firewood. People started cutting their trees to use as fuel. Okay, deforestation started happening. Okay, because ultimately they were not getting the fuel that was imported to Nepal from India. So now ultimately what Nepal did was they now this protest had to be basically resolved. Okay, or otherwise Nepal would have suffered from this. So what happened? No as such solution came. No as such solution came. But ultimately, due to this, anti-India sentiment started getting inculcated in the minds of the Nepalis. The problem was that now there are two types of powers. One is hard power, one is soft power. The hard power image of India is always strong in Asia, but this soft power image of India in Nepal got reduced because of this. Okay. The problem was this, that the Madheshi region actually lies in the Nepal-India border, and instability, any kind of instability in the Madheshi region directly impacts. If something will happen in Kathmandu, it will take a lot of time to impact India, but something will happen at the border only, in the Terai region only. Just imagine these are the, for example, these are mountains, this is the Terai region, and here starts the border of India. So whatever happens here will not directly impact India, but whatever will happen here will directly impact India. Now India had to do something. So KP Sharma only once came to India also. He visited India also in 2016. So ultimately we signed one Muzaffarpur Dhalkebar transmission line, and Nepal assured that the constitution will be amended. Okay, they will amend the constitution and will do something good there in the constitution. Okay, they promised this thing. All right. So this is basically the major thing. Now let's write this. है ना? तो ये सब लिख लेते हैं. Nepal adopted its new constitution. Nepal adopted its new constitution on 20 September 2015, replacing their interim constitution in 2007. Full stop. This constitution was significant because it is the seventh constitution of Nepal. Because it is the seventh constitution of Nepal. It is the seventh constitution of Nepal. And it is the first constitution drafted by, and it is the first constitution drafted by an elected constituent assembly. An elected constituent assembly. Okay, so right. Put the heading Nature and Features of 2015 Constitution. First, right. Right-based constitution. Right-based constitution. Right, the constitution followed a rights-based approach. The constitution followed a rights-based approach and contains many fundamental rights and social justice provisions. However, critics argues that it is high on promise but weak in implementation. High on promise but weak in implementation. Right? Constitution written by politicians. Right? The constitution was drafted mainly by political leaders, mainly by political leaders, but not by the constitutional expert or jurists. Which resulted in political compromises, and lack of technical and legal clarity. Objectives of Constituent Assembly, right? The Constituent Assembly system was adopted to ensure participation, collective political order, however, this goal was not completely achieved, which led to the dissatisfaction among several groups, including Madeshis and Tharus. Put this heading. The code. Let's discuss this. Write this. We have already discussed. Let's write this in the next class. Okay? Sure. कोई problem इस class? करते हैं इसको. Okay. Any questions?